Hello, welcome again to Cool Discussions. This is Barry and Chris. Today we're going to have I don't know about half a conversation.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
An unusual conversation. Now, definitely, if you have sensitive ears, this is not the conversation you want to be listening to. Okay, half a conversation. It is. No problem. Okay, so a guy I work with, he walked in, he sat down, and we chit-chat about all kinds of things. And he says, it's Black History Month this month. I'm like, cool. And he's like, well, it's Black History Month. And I was like, and I'm supposed to learn what? And he's like, well, Black History. I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you something. You might not like it. I don't care. Just like I don't care about Yellow History Month, White History Month, or Brown History Month. I don't care. In fact, for that matter, most of the things about history that I was taught in school, I've forgotten.
Isn't history just history, no matter what color they are?
And here's the thing. We started walking away, we're chit-chatting, and he understood what I was talking about. It's like, why should we care? I was explaining to him, well, if it's part of history, it should just be taught. And he's like, well, why do you need a whole month? He's like, well, because we need awareness and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, what am I supposed to be aware of? And he's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you tell me it's Black History Month, and you don't tell me what we're supposed to be aware of. So it's kind of like, if it's part of history, it should be taught in school.
Yeah, I don't remember any history, really. I think I've learned more, just because of my own curiosity. Like, when I am watching a documentary about something, I'll watch it because I want to know about it. So what I know is from school, I don't even remember what they taught us.
Yeah, for that matter, I'm trying to rack my brain going, what did they teach us in schools? Like, well, I can almost say this, is that they didn't teach us anything about history from before Canada was
Wasn't
formed.
that social studies history?
Yeah,
I don't even,
social studies was
what
history.
a useless class.
Useless. Well, they taught us about the different governments that there are. They taught us about economics.
But they didn't really teach us much about the government. They just told us, this is a government.
Well, no, okay, that's where that might be a little arguable, because I think they taught us a little bit more than we actually remember.
Did they teach you about voting? I don't even remember I don't think they died. Whatever, anyways.
So, it's a valid point. If you need to teach history, teach history. So, we're talking about that, then he's like, okay, well, I want you to look at a video. And I'm like, okay, what video? And he's like, who are Jamaicans? And I'm like, you know what? Me and him have very interesting conversations. We talk about things. We don't, kind of like what we're doing now. We can actually, talk about race and things like that. The fellow is a black fellow. He's actually from Jamaica. He immigrated to Canada. He has a very strong Jamaican accent. It's really interesting hearing him talk. So I watched this video called Who Are Jamaicans? Wow. You learn some things when you watch other cultures. In the first 5 minutes of the video, I was going, what the hell is this guy doing? He was like, okay, who are Jamaicans? We're not called Jamaicans because this is not what the island of Jamaica was called before the white people got here. Because the white people called Jamaica, Jamaica. I'm like, okay, fine, I can hand you that point.
Okay.
And then he was like, there's another thing, and then the third thing was, there was no transatlantic slave trade.
So he's saying there's no slaves?
He was saying there was no slaves.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. Like, I watched that video, I hit that point, and I stopped it. I was like, what?
Wow.
Whoa. How can a black person say something like that? Now, this is where it gets interesting. So I started doing some research about history, about Christopher Columbus, because this is where it all started. Christopher, I don't remember actually being taught this in school.
I don't think we were. I don't know about Christopher.
This was one of those things where I was curious, so I watched shows about Christopher Columbus. Now, when you make TV, you got to make it more dramatic, and you got to make Christopher Columbus the hero. So, they paint him with a nice stroke of the brush there. Fine. That's
when you watch any type of documentary, I think you need to look at the perspective that the director is coming from. You need to look at, because that's how they're going to paint it. Like, when you watch any type of, about anything, it's like, oh, it makes, somebody can make a bloody documentary about the Nazis and make them look good in any kind of way. I'm sure you can manipulate it to make them, well, probably not.
Well, in a way, yes.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, okay, so just as a general thing, I started looking up about Christopher Columbus, and then me and the guy at work, we had a talk about, he told me, Christopher Columbus came there and enslaved all the Indians around there, and they weren't actually Indians, they were actually black people. The whole transatlantic slave thing was a white conspiracy for a war against blacks.
We made it up?
Yeah. That the whole transatlantic slave thing was actually just a cover for war against black people by white people. Now, I actually called him out on this. I said...
Your friend at work?
I called him out. I walked up to him and I looked at him going, wow, you believe that there was no transatlantic slave trade? And he's like, well, he says it and, he says stuff. I'm like, did you even bother looking at stuff? And he's like, well, no. And I called him, first off, back in that time period, Christopher Columbus, 1400s, why would white people need to lie about a war against black people? They'd been going to Africa and bartering and stuff there. So, bartering at that point in time was, if you had enough men, you just take over the territory and rape the resources. Understandable, not understandable, but that's what they did back then.
That was the ways back in the day.
Yeah, that was the ways. People were allowed
to doing that a little bit now, don't you think?
How so?
With wars, we're not like we go over and we take over the places and we implement our systems to benefit us in a way.
No, and I can't argue that from history. It's like it's easy for us as...
You can't argue like black... You can't argue the slavery. You would look like an idiot.
Well, and he did argue against it. He brought up... He talked about 9 different points. The sticking point for me was there was no transatlantic slave trade. Now, there was a couple of the other points he talked about. I don't know anything about Jamaica, so I have no idea if it's true or not. Right? Another thing he brought up was that we're all owned by the Queen.
Like we are?
Yeah, that we are owned by... Exactly. And he doesn't believe it, no matter how many... Oh, in his defense, if you do go on to Google and who owns Canada, the first 2 articles are about the Queen owning Canada. Now, technically the Queen owns Canada because we're part of the Commonwealth.
I was going to say we're part of the Commonwealth, so
however, she doesn't actually
She's just a figurehead. It's not
Canada.
Literally owns. She's just a figurehead of Canada.
Yeah. So, but he doesn't comprehend that. And then because... Like your
friend at work doesn't?
Yeah, no, he didn't comprehend that at all. Still doesn't. So we agree to disagree in that regard. So this whole transatlantic slave thing, for a black fellow to say...
That's weird. That's weird for a black man to say, like...
And then you go into the comments on the videos, because, in some videos, comments are disabled.
Yeah, well, it's because people don't like to be told,
Yeah, exactly. And I found that a lot of people were drinking the Kool-Aid.
A lot of people agreed?
Yeah.
That it wasn't a thing. Wow. I guess it's a possibility, but it's highly unlikely. Why would there be such a uproar about it to this day if it never happened?
Exactly. But my first point was, and I said to this fellow, why would the white people need to lie about a war against blacks? It's like, well, because they can't just have a war with them. Well, they could, completely and totally. Yeah. Back then, if they wanted to wipe somebody out,
they just did it.
They just did it. When Christopher Columbus discovered the New World, the Spanish people... I read a lot about Jamaica, but as a whole, in the Jamaican island, they figured that there was like 250,000 native population there. And then by the time the British took over, about 50 years later, there was 3,000 of these Indians left. Because these are documented. When the Spanish conquistadors went and conquered the Mayan Empire, they did it with 100 soldiers. One of the things they did was they handed down infected blankets with smallpox.
Smallpox, probably,
yeah. And they killed because the Mayan people had no immunity to smallpox, so it just ravaged the population and just destroyed it.
I just want to go back to something that you said that kind of made me go,
Yeah.
So you were talking about this gentleman, and he was like, "Oh, it's Black History Month."
Yeah.
And you challenged to, well, what about it?
Yeah.
And his answer was, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Right?
He was like, "Well, you got to learn about blacks." I'm like, "Well, what do I have to learn about blacks?"
That to me, that's a problem. If you're saying, "Hey, you have to do this," if I was like, "Hey, you need to learn about this napkin," and I went, and you know what I mean, like it. And you went, "Well, why do I need to learn about it?" And I went, "I don't know, because it's a napkin."
Yeah,
I don't know. You should have a reason for it.
Yeah,
you should have a reason for.
Now, as a defense for blacks, because I know this subject comes across as, "Oh, I'm part of the KKK."
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm just white. If blacks are part of history, then teach about them as part of history.
History should be colorless.
Unfortunately, history is written by the winners, and the winners tend to be white people. So, I get it, history has that white color brush to it, but don't forget that blacks tended to be not a part of society. Like, when they were brought over as slaves. So, you could talk about slaves. I think it was touched base upon about Canadian history because we're part of the Underground Railroad where blacks could come and escape and be free. But other than that, we didn't talk about black people. Well, we didn't necessarily talk about white people in school either.
I don't think so. I think we just
talked about
people in general.
The British owned Upper Canada, the French owned Lower Canada. There was wars after a while through a treaty.
Is there like an end time for like the slavery thing? Is there a time where it just kind of like when can it just kind of, I'm not saying go away, but when is it like
perfectly acceptable to talk about it without having
without it being
walk on eggshells?
When is the what is it called?
When can we talk about it openly instead of having to worry about being
offending to somebody? Well, I guess the whole race thing is kind of like that. You can't really talk about race without stepping on eggshells most times because you could come across racist. Like if I was like, that when you so what about Black History Month? That's probably somebody would consider that racist.
Yeah,
but why would you consider that racist when I'm honestly going, well, okay, what about it? Well, tell me something about it so that I can be informed about it. And if you can't tell me anything about it, then I go, well, what's the purpose of it? Like,
yeah, that is
why can't just in June we go, hey, let's talk about Martin Luther King today? Or something like that, you know what I mean?
And in the States, they do have Martin Luther King Day. I don't know how much of a holiday it is.
I think it's a holiday. Yeah. I'm not sure.
But in the States, holidays are different than in Canada. So we don't talk about it up in Canada. It's not like Martin Luther King wasn't an important person, but in Canada, he wasn't a person. And I'm not trying to degrade him. That wasn't a shot or anything. It was just in Canada we didn't have segregation like the States. I don't think
we did. Yeah.
I can't.
The surprising thing is that segregation still exists.
Yes, it does.
That is the problem. That I understand that completely. But we can't all just be painted with a
broad stroke. Because if you paint us with the broad stroke, well, we paint you guys.
It's exactly
an automatic human reaction.
It's no different. Like if one person paints somebody with a broad stroke and the other one does the same thing, it's exactly the same. It's two negatives. You know what I mean? Like we talked about way back in one of our first shows, which you can find on our YouTube channel, about the Oscars and how they people are boycotting it because of all the people being white. Why do we automatically got to jump to the race card? Why is the race card now pulled so much in this world? Why are we so sensitive to stuff like that? Maybe, okay, so in that situation, the Oscars, maybe your problem isn't with, hey, it's all white people. Maybe it's with the voting system, the way people are chosen. Let's not just pull out the automatic, oh, you hate me because I'm purple card. Mm-hmm. Well, no, I'm giving you a hard time because of this, not because of your skin color. I worked in the restaurants a while back, and I had to let this guy go, and he was a white gentleman, but anyways, and he tried to pin me against the wall, not literally, with, you're firing me because I have mental problems.
Whoa.
And I was like, no, I'm firing you because because you're an idiot. I didn't say that, but that was what it was. That. I'm firing you because you don't do your job. You come to work late. So to me, I think it happens a lot. Maybe because I'm the privileged white man. I don't know. Apparently I'm one of the most privileged people in the world because I'm a 35-year-old white man. You know what I mean? That's. I feel that I'm lumped into that, and it's like, well, hold on. Okay, I haven't been oppressed. I never have been because I don't let people oppress me. I have an opinion. I speak it. I have a thought. I speak it. I have a belief. I believe in it. You know what I mean? I don't sit there and preach to other people. I don't tell you to think the world is 1 billion years old. I don't tell you to cheer for the Edmonton Oilers because they have to. I don't tell you to eat poutine because we live in Canada.
Although
I do all those things. So. I do all those things because that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because that's who I am. So I don't let the world around me dictate who I am. You know what I mean? And it's like, if somebody fires me,
I want to know why.
I want a reason why. And if I think you're telling me bullshit, I'm going to call you out on it. I'm going to tell you, I think you're lying, and I think you're not giving me the truth, then this is why. And none of it would ever be a race card, ever in my life. Ever. And it's just, to me, it's a little bit irritating.
Yeah.
When you always hear about, like, these race things, all the, people being racist towards Muslims, and it's like, hold on a second, just back up. To me, I believe that in order to live my life freely, I have to let everybody else live their life freely. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. The bad and ugly are included in freedom.
Yep.
You want to believe in Satan? You're allowed to. You want to believe in the Nazi Party? I have to let you, even though how moronic and idiotic that is, I have to let you do that so I can believe in what I want to believe.
Yeah, and here's the thing about freedom. It's like, we actually, a year ago, the Nazi Party had a protest, and police had to show up to protect them.
Okay. So what's the difference if the Nazi Party's having a gathering, or if the Asian Party or the Muslims, they're having a gathering and they want to, hoorah, hoorah, or the white man, they want to hoorah, hoorah. There's no difference of them doing it. It's just because society dictates the Nazi Party as wrong that we all look at and go, that's wrong.
Well, society as a whole dictates that only white people can be racist. I know this comes across as kind of crass, but, they say black people, colored people can't be racist. It's like, well, you know what? They can be even just more. Racist. They can be just as racist as white people. I've known a couple of black people throughout my life, and one of the first things they always say whenever they're pulled over by cops is, "Oh, it's because I'm black." I'm like,
no, it's probably because you were speeding or on your telephone.
One, it was probably because you're speeding, and two, you were driving a red sports car, which, by statistics, happens to be the most pulled
Doesn't
over
matter if you're pink
car by cops ever. So, red sports car, don't drive it if you don't want to be pulled over.
Yeah, like if
don't speed for that matter.
If I'm driving a Lamborghini, obviously I go past the cop, they're going to be like, "Oh, and they're driving a really fast car." Mm-hmm. It's the car. It's not the person in it. It's the car. It's the situation. It's not like... Now,
I kind of get it because in the States, racial tensions is really, really high at this point in time. The whole white cop shooting black people.
But then there should be an individual like an case-by-case basis. Don't just be like, all cops are this way. There are good cops. I don't really like cops. I think they shouldn't be extorting money for silly things. I think they should be after the more criminals. That made no sense.
But drug dealers,
not even drug dealers. That's another.
Okay,
that's another topic. But like rapists, murderers, stuff like
true.
that. Not So like when one cop shoots somebody, it should be, well, let's look at the situation of this cop. Why this cop shot this person.
Now, what should happen though is it actually happened in Toronto not too long ago. There was an incident where a police officer shot a knife-wielding man on a bus 9 times. He was charged with
some sort of crime.
He was charged with a degree of murder, but below manslaughter, and I don't know how it works because it's something to do with police officers. He was found guilty, and he's the first police officer to be found guilty of murder.
Let's look at that situation there.
Ever.
Guys, okay? You're a cop. You are trained. You're supposed to be, from what I understand, in non-lethal takedown methods.
Yeah.
So your first instinct is to pull out your gun and shoot somebody 9 times.
Here was the kicker. He shot him 3 times. The guy went down and they fired 6 more rounds into him.
That's not...
The 6 rounds is what he was charged with, not the first 3.
That's murder. That's not I'm protecting myself in society. That's murder. Okay?
Yeah.
When you're trained...
I think
shoot him in the leg.
Okay. Now our argument about that is it doesn't happen like in the movies. You can't just go bang, 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 and then hit everything you shoot at. Things are a lot more difficult. If you try to aim for somebody in the legs, if the legs are moving, if you miss, the guy gets you, and you're all of a sudden stabbed.
Yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is you're a trained professional, and you should be able to execute that. That thing, shoot him in the chest, bam. If he dies, that's self-defense. But when you pull the trigger 9 times, I think that's the biggest thing is you don't look at if a cop shoots somebody once and that's it, and the situation's over. I can understand that because then that's self-defense.
Yeah.
If somebody broke into my house, right, I shoot them. They go down right away. I don't shoot them another 6 times. Mm-mm. You know what I mean?
Shoot them again, dispose of the body.
Well, yeah, of course. Come on, you don't shoot them because you know that if I shot them 9 times, I would be charged with murder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So a cop should be held up to the
same
law
laws that we are,
and they should be examples to society.
So what if a black cop pulls over a white man? Are they racist because they're pulling over a white man? What if I said that? What if a colored cop, an Asian cop, whatever, pulled me over and I was like, "You're pulling me over because I'm white"? How well would that fly?
It wouldn't fly.
It wouldn't fly at all. They'd be like, "Shut up."
Yeah, it's one of those things. Is to be able to talk about these things, we need to be able to talk about them and not have to worry about these
offending people.
Yeah,
this whole conversation is probably going to offend somebody, and if it goes viral, people will probably be like, "You're an idiot, you're racist," and maybe I am. I don't view myself as racist. I just view myself. I'm like, well, this is how I view the world. It's like you're a person. You're the same. It doesn't matter your skin color. That means nothing to me. If you do something bad, then you should be called out on it. If you do something wrong, you should be called on it, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your background, your education, anything. Mm-hmm. So when somebody says, "Oh, it's Black History Month," okay, tell me about it. Well, I don't know. It's like, well,
yeah.
So you're telling me that it's Black History Month because it's your skin color?
Yeah, it's. What do you want me to know? Well,
yeah,
and for that matter, I haven't bothered to research anything like it.
It's not because it just doesn't interest me. It doesn't. I have no interest in certain parts of history. Sometimes I'll watch a documentary on. Let's see. I watched a documentary the other day on magicians and conning people. I watched that because it interested me.
And I will sit there and actually watch a whole season of a documentary about, what would happen to the Earth if people disappeared. Why? Because this was interesting. What happens to all the stuff that we build? Does it last? No. The short answer is no, it doesn't last. So
I don't pick out things because of that.
Yeah,
anything like that.
If it interested me, I will watch it. Now, in all the delving into history about all this stuff, history is interesting. It is written by the winner, and for us to say, they should have done it differently, well, we can't do that. We have running water, we have electricity, we have more. We eat, just as I eat more food in an entire year than most people in the 1500s got to eat for a month.
Yeah.
Or
you eat more food in a month than they got to eat in a year.
Yeah. And heck, we probably throw away more food than they could ever imagine.
We're a very privileged society, and that I think that comes across in a way. I think it comes across in a way where our privilege is almost making us a little bit soft.
Yeah.
In a way, you know what I mean? Like, we can't have a conversation about, like Muslims without somebody. If you're talking with 5 people, when you're talking about like the wars and stuff like that, there's going to be one person who sits there and be like, "Oh, those fucking Muslims." You pretty much guarantee there's going to be one person who has that view, and it's like, and then that offends everybody, and it's like, well, unfortunately, now if somebody has that view, it's like, okay, well, why do you think that?
Mm-hmm.
Back it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Show me a little bit of evidence. Don't just be that bumbling idiot saying, "Oh, I hate these guys because they stereotypically do this," and it's like, okay, hold on. Did you realize that in Oklahoma, the dude who bombed that building was a white dude?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Timothy McVeigh was a white dude. Did we
treat him like a terrorist? No. He went to jail, but was he called a terrorist? No, he was just called a mentally unstable person.
Exactly. So what's the difference between a mentally unstable person and a terrorist nowadays?
Not
Skin
much.
That's totally wrong.
Heck, we had this conversation when, that guy who charged the Parliament building?
Yeah.
A buddy at work was saying, "Oh, he's not a terrorist."
Yeah, he is.
So what was he? He was just a nut job. Okay, I see a point to that because...
But terrorists are nut jobs too.
It comes from ideology. Timothy McVeigh, why the hell did he blow it up?
But when you look at the definition of a terrorist, right, it's the use of intimidation or force to pretty much get your way. Right? It doesn't say the use of intimidation or force by
colored people,
white
who
people
follow a certain religion.
It just says the use of force or intimidation to get your way, to instill your values and your ideologies on people. So the definition of a terrorist does not include any type of race whatsoever.
Yep.
So what have we done as a society? We've associated terrorism with a race.
Yep.
Guys, white people are terrorists too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All over the world. Terrorists. Right? You know what I mean? And I have one question about, this whole thing. What's the difference between, so the Oscars are all white.
Yep.
Okay? That's racist, right?
Yep.
What about the Black Entertainment Awards?
Yeah, and
I'm asking this honestly. I'm not trying to be like an asshole. I'm not. I'm asking this honestly, and I'd like somebody to tell me what the difference is.
White people would love to be able to ask these questions,
but we can't ask them because
we were
labeled as racist. Yeah.
Labeled as
You're racist because you think like that. What? No, I just want an explanation.
And the fellow at work that I have these conversations with, he's actually really good in that regards. We talk like just two regular people. There's no color of skin involved in our talks. He has a way of thinking. I have a way of thinking, and we ask each other why. We hear each other, and in some cases, mind shift.
I think that's one big problem nowadays in society is that people, they hear people, but they don't listen.
Yes.
You hear what people are there. You hear this noise, but you're not really processing
He's racist.
Yeah, and you just go, you're racist. It's like, whoa.
That's it. That's all you ever hear is racism, and the conversation stops.
Yeah.
You can't have a conversation.
Somebody have to just tell me what the difference is.
Be able to put away some of our feelings to have a tough conversation about all these things so we can actually get somewhere instead of immediately going, you're a racist,
you
and
can't
that's the end of the
progress
conversation.
if you just get emotional and you get mad about it. You need to be able to have those tough conversations to make progressions and stuff like this. You know what I mean? So if you want to talk about Black History Month, then you've got to tell me about it. Yeah. If you want to tell me what the difference between the Oscars and the Black Entertainment Awards are, please tell me. Let me know, because I don't. I look at those, if you call this racist, you have to call this racist. You have to. You can't not. There's just no way. Like, that, it makes no sense. You're just... what?
Yep.
This makes zero sense.
And unfortunately, only time will tell in regards to what's going on with everything. Change never happens immediately. It takes time. It takes effort. And it comes down to, we have to teach the next generation how to be better and not to make the same mistakes that we did.
I want to be equal, but only if it benefits me. That's what it seems like, you know what I mean? I want to be treated equal. I want to be treated just like everybody else, just like everybody. Then that means I'm going to get shit on. I'm going to get told I'm an idiot sometimes. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get told that I'm not doing something right. I'm going to get my feelings hurt. You know what I mean? I'm going to get told things that are going to make me upset. But it's how you deal with it after that is what judges your true character. So when you sit there and just automatically jump to the race card with the question I just asked, stop and ask yourself a question.
Yeah, you don't get very far into the conversation as soon as you go, oh, you're a racist.
Yeah, like, whoa, hold on. I get offended by the N-word. I never use it in my life. I hate that word.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm not racist? I don't know. Like, what? I'm so just lost. And it's so irritating that you can't have a conversation and you can't, you know what I mean? You can't just talk about stuff openly without somebody getting offended. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, what are we doing here nowadays with the internet? You know, it's like, oh, I'm offended by this commercial. I'm offended by that. And I'm offended by this. And it's like, I watched this commercial, so now I'm just ranting because you guys got me on rant. I saw this commercial. I don't know if you've seen it. Probably not, because you don't watch commercials. But it was like this dude brushing his teeth in the bathroom, and it shows it's for sports betting, right? And it shows this text message bubble come up. Oh, you chose Montreal or whatever, right? Or something. And it's like, then there's an emoticon, the little ghost emoji, and it's yeah. And he goes and he's like, honey, what does this mean, right? Because he didn't know it meant booyah.
Oh,
right. And the guy came across as kind of an airhead. I laughed at that. And I went, that's a freaking hilarious commercial. That's a good commercial. It makes me remember it. Mm. Right? But I thought, in the same breath I went, thinking about it more, I went, oh my God, if that was a woman who acted like that, somebody out there is going to be offended.
I actually didn't know what booyah was, but I'm not a texter, so I don't know what internet speak is.
I don't even know what internet and text speak is.
Well, booyah is an internet thing, so the fact that you know what it is.
But that's what I'm saying, is that somebody finds a way to be offended by everything. And it's like, when does it stop? When does it end? When do we just have the ability to have intelligent conversations, intelligent conversations to make progress?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because I know, like, when you see, like, in politics, these people just yelling across the floor from each other, and it's like, how are you making progress yelling at each other like this? I'm not getting my way, so I'm going to yell. It's like, well, why don't we sit down at a table, have a conversation, person to person, about issue A. How can we solve it? How can we solve issue A? You know what I mean? Without somebody getting butthurt. Stop getting butthurt, please.
Well, that's the thing. It's easy for us to say, oh yeah, don't get butthurt. We're the white privileged people.
Where's my privilege?
We're
what is
trying to understand.
Yeah,
and
I really want to understand.
We want to know what we need to do.
Tell me how I'm white privileged. Tell me what that means. What does it mean?
Someone will, so it's...
Good, I hope so. Somebody tell me, well, maybe this is being stupid, maybe being naive to it is what white privilege is. I don't know.
Maybe.
But like, somebody tell me what it is, like, because I don't got a mansion in the hills with 5 cars, if that's what it means. Like, I don't understand what it means. I haven't gotten any more advantages because of my skin color. I don't think I have. I've had to work for everything.
Yep, same here.
You know what I mean?
I have to work for everything I have.
You know, I don't get handed things. I don't understand what people think that we have. What is it that we have that's so...
For that matter, it comes down to this. Is like when we hired and fired people, we didn't hire and fire people based off their color. It's like, if you actually knew what the hell you were doing, I at least rewarded people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's based on your performance. It's based on your work.
Yeah, so if you were working, great. If you weren't working, no, sorry, bye.
It just seems like maybe it doesn't happen a lot, but it seems like it happens. Oh, you're oppressing me because of my color or sexual orientation or this and that, and it's like, what?
Well, up until you said something about your sex, I didn't know.
Yeah, so like, obviously I can see that, you're a different skin color, but that has nothing to do with it. And I get that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Okay,
it does.
Whoa. We know it exists.
Now, we're Canadian, so we don't have as much. In fact, if anything, it's Native Americans that suffer more in Canada than black people do.
Yeah, but that's...
Because a law...
Get off your ass and do something.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Stop crying about being, oh, you guys took our land. I didn't take your land.
I didn't take your land. My grandfather immigrated from here. And my grandmother, our grandmother...
is Native.
It was Native, so...
I didn't take your land, guys. I didn't do anything to you.
Yeah.
Go get a job. Like, do like the rest of us.
There are programs for Native people that they can enroll in that gets them fast-tracked into schools, into trades.
So you want to see privilege. How am I going to get that? I was never offered anything like that. Maybe I didn't look hard enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like...
But if anything... Native Americans get it worse here in Canada than any other people of any other race here in Canada. So, maybe that's where it is. But you know what? None of us sit here and go... a lot of us might just have to sit here and go, well, get a job. We have problems. We know that. That's why we have these programs for you guys.
So do something about it. Don't just sit there and be like, oh, poor me, poor me. It's like, well, hold on a second. Like... That's what's so irritating. Is like, is that what white privilege is? Is that privilege? Is that what it is? Because it doesn't seem like white privilege. It doesn't seem that privilege to me if I'm sitting here going on my high horse because it's not very high. I'm just a working class bum, you know what I mean? Like, I just work. I go to work Monday to Friday like the rest of the world.
I have to worry about job security.
Yeah. Just as much as anybody else. So it's like...
I still have to be on time, never be late, work hard... get not rewarded.
Imagine if I was to be like at my job or anywhere, any of my jobs, I got fired and I went, you're firing me because I'm white. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine how ludicrous that would look.
Yeah, it comes down to is like, if you're a person of color and you're pulled over, were you speeding?
Yeah, were you doing something wrong?
If you weren't speeding... Find out what the officer wants.
Yeah. Then you got yourself...
Don't assume that it's race, because, again, this is maybe just white privilege. It's like, when we get pulled over, we don't assume...
We're just a couple of white dudes. I assume that the cops just hate me.
Yeah.
That's what
as
I
a general rule.
I'm like, he's a cop, he needs to make his month. That's what I say.
Yeah, that's exactly what we think.
Even though we know it's not true.
He has to make his quota.
We know it's not true. Well, we don't know if it's true, if that quotas or not.
See, and that's always a rumor. It's
it's a rumor.
True?
Yeah, But it's just like, where does it end? When does the conversation start becoming productive?
Well, and hopefully this conversation is productive, because I love talking with this fellow at work, because we don't see each other as black and white. We just talk because it's like, I want to know because he has a different view of things. He wants to know because I have a different view of things. And we try. We don't always work because he is always going to assume that we're owned by the queen, and I know better.
Yeah, but unfortunately, to be free, we got to let him think that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We agree to disagree. That's right. And...
let's get this conversation started. Like, I'm not coming. I don't look at people's skin color. I don't look at their ethnic background. I don't look at their sexual orientation. when I'm judging a person. I don't sit there when I'm talking to you, think about that.
Do you work?
Yeah.
Do you work hard?
Are you a good person?
Do you have a job?
Are you a good person? Are you a good individual? That's how I judge you. I judge your personality, and I like to.
You
talk
could be a bit of a dick at times. You know, everybody has that right to be a dick.
You know,
but
so
how often are you a dick?
Let's get this conversation started. Let's talk about the race card. Let's talk about, have you ever used it, and if you have, what did you use it for? You know, was it? Have you ever used the race card in a negative way? Are you racist? Do you think you're racist? Do you think what has been said here is racist? You know what I mean? And if so,
why?
Why? That's the biggest thing.
That's what
Don't
we
just
want
call
to
me
know.
a racist asshole. Tell me why I'm a racist asshole.
Yep.
Let's have a conversation about it, because I'm all about it. I'm all about defending my ideas. I'm all about defending my thoughts. They could be wrong. They could be dead wrong. I could be completely out to lunch.
We could completely miss something.
Yeah.
And then you go, hey, well, what about
Point
this?
it out
It's
to
like,
me. Oh, hey, yeah, you're right.
I never even thought about
Because
that.
you know what? We're a couple of reasonable human beings who grow and who understand and use knowledge to expand.
Try to use knowledge sometimes.
Yeah. Keyword right there, try. You know what I mean? And me personally, I want to become a better person using knowledge, using other people's experiences. And to me right now, it's just, I don't get it.
Yep.
I don't get it.
I don't always get it.
And if that's white privilege, then...
well, then we suffer from it.
Maybe I am racist, more racist than I thought.
True.
But somebody tell me something, you know. Give me something.
Thanks for listening. Leave a comment below on YouTube.
Yes, leave lots of comments, guys. Let's talk about this. This is a very good subject to talk about.
You can talk about it on Facebook for that matter.
Yes, you sure can. Facebook.com/Coull Discussions.
Yep. Like and subscribe us on YouTube, Facebook, and you can listen to the whole thing on iTunes.
On iTunes. That's right, guys.
So thank you again for another week, and we will see you later.